Hey everyone, welcome back to SQL Squared. Today I'm absolutely thrilled to be chatting with Tonie Huizer. Tonie is a database DevOps guru who writes excellent blog posts for the likes of Redgate and speaks at various events around the globe. Welcome to the podcast, Tonie.
Thank you, David. And with those words, I don't know what to say. So normally I don't get quiet really fast, but thanks. Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
No, I'm delighted to be here. Like you said, I write a lot for Redgate, and Redgate pointed me out that you were having this marvelous podcast. So, yeah, why don't we just collab, right?
Yeah, really looking forward to this chat. I think there's a lot that both myself and the audience can learn from you and your experience and what you've done in the past. I know that you're, a good speaker and a good writer, and well versed in the world of database DevOps. So we'll go into all of those things.
Cool.
I was wondering if you could very quickly, to kick things off, just give the audience a introduction into yourself.
Yeah, well, you already said it. My name is Tonie Huizer, or just in Dutch, Tonie Huizer, but I always go by my stage name, Tonie Huizer, because it's more easy to pronounce.
It sounds the same to me.
Yeah. I'm from the Netherlands. I have a consultancy firm. I'm working mainly, if possible, on a database DevOps project, but I'm also working on the other DevOps projects. I used to have a little software firm. I'm still working a lot with those guys, mainly in the role as solutions architect. Always Microsoft stuff, so Microsoft.NET, Microsoft SQL Server.
Soft till I die.
And that's why my company's name is ProMicro. I'm very pro Microsoft.
Right. I didn't even make that connection.
Yeah, that's where it comes from. And within ProMicro, we have different other people working as freelancers. One of them is a very good friend and colleague of mine named Peter Kruis. He is a real good DBA. We do some sessions together. And 2 weeks ago, we even hosted our first, where are my stickers? My first event, or our first event, called SQL, which is
very
a little
smart.
bit...
On the sea, I'm guessing.
Oh, sorry?
On the sea, I'm guessing.
Yeah. It's
next
a mix
to the
up.
coast.
Yeah. It's a mix up between C and SQL. And for us, it was the real SQL Saturday vibe again. So I have nothing against the Data Saturday brand, but with Fabric, not spoiling everything, but taking over every conference, it was good to have a Fabric-free zone. So we had SQL Server on-prem, also in the cloud, database tuning. We have a little bit Azure Copilot stuff, but it was actually old school SQL Saturday. We liked it. And people liked it. We had good reviews, and we're coming back next year. We still have to pick a date, but go to LinkedIn page of SQL, SQL Saturday, and then get subscribed, and you hear it first. But that's about my introduction. Oh yeah, I live in the Netherlands. Look me up on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active. There is a GitHub also with some examples on the articles I write. To finish up, I'm a Redgate ambassador. That means that I can use their software, write about it, talk about it, but I'm not employed by Redgate. On a personal note, I have 2 kids, a wife, and a dog. So the order is now better because in another podcast, I put my wife in the last position and started with the dog. So got some complaints about
came
that.
First?
Yeah. So, but actually my dog was also on the sticker you just saw.
Well, that's what it's bit okay.
Yeah, it's a SQL database, of course, with the dog coming out of it. And that's because of the likability factor of a dog.
Yeah.
I mean,
very
it's always nice to have a mascot. So she was on the event. She stayed till not the last session, but the one before last. And then a friend of mine picked her up. She was tired, but she was everywhere. She went on photos with the sponsors. People could pet her.
Really famous.
She went to every session. So, yeah. And it was the first event where non-guiding dogs were allowed.
Yes. People could come in, walk their dog beforehand.
Yeah, the dog is one of my hobbies. The other hobby is whiskey, but don't tell my wife because she thinks it's business.
Man, you can always sell it as business.
Yeah, that is.
I know that you have your own podcast as well, the Tonie and Tonie Show.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you want to give a bit of an introduction into that?
Yeah, so Tony Davis is my editor, and without Tony, I wouldn't write a single piece. I tried. I even put some on Medium, but no one even read it. Well, maybe a few guys or girls, but I don't know. But it wasn't that popular. And then I met Tony and started writing for Redgate. And having an editor is a really important part of writing good content. Because, okay, I might understand what is going on, but putting that in good words is very hard. I mean, if you're on stage talking about something, you can see that people understand you or not. They can just adjust your story. But if you put it on words, it has to be good in one time.
Yeah, it needs to flow.
So I met Tony a few years back, and then I found out that the work Tony is doing for Redgate, product learning work, wasn't that, I couldn't say popular, but marketed.
Okay.
So then we came up with the Tonie and Tonie Show, where we try to do a weekly show, just put the latest article of product learning in the spotlight. So we talk over that article. Mm-hmm. So just two Tonys talk about what has been published by the other Tony, sometimes written by this Tony, but most of the time written by other authors, which reminds me, Redgate is always looking for people to write for them. So if you have something to share about the tools you're using with Redgate, or if it's not even Redgate related, then you can go and look at SimpleTalk or SQL Central, all Redgate related brands, always looking for new stories, new people to start writing. But back to the Tonie and Tonie Show, I actually started to be an internal show just for promoting product learning within the company.
Yes.
But after one episode, the social media department picked it up and said, we want to publish it outside of Redgate. And here we are.
Well, it seems to be going well. I've watched a few of them on LinkedIn. It's good that you put LinkedIn posts up about them, and they're quite insightful. It's good to get a lot of more information surrounding the article and surrounding the actual, what it's about and the tools that it's there, from people that use them. So yeah.
Yeah, of course you have the documentation pages, which are not really static, but it's written by the product team how the tool should work and how you can configure it. And product learning is more about real world implementations, special use of the tool, which isn't really documented, stuff like that. So yeah, I really like to do that. And within a few weeks, I don't know when this podcast will go live, there's also going to be another show, which I'm going to do with Mohammed. And he's the Benelux representative of Redgate, because Redgate just opened an office in Amsterdam.
Yes.
Yeah. And we're going to do, I think it's going to be a bi-weekly show called DevOps and the Benelux.
Right.
And it's going to be in Dutch.
Oh,
so
okay.
That's also fun.
You'll need to put out some English transcripts.
Yeah, maybe. Or just dub it with 11 Labs.
All that, yeah. I'm sure there's some AI tools out there that
there's
can
AI
take
tools.
it and do it.
But the whole idea is to really target this Dutch-speaking market.
Yeah.
So, but dubbing it and doing subtitles, then you, David, could also understand it. But yeah. So yeah, that's, I think, about enough promotion about my podcast.
Well, everything you talked about and all the links and everything, I'll put in the description of the podcast, wherever it's being viewed or listened to, and help people on their journey into database DevOps with Redgate, Tonie and Tonie Show, and hopefully people that will be attending SQL.NL next year. Yeah,
that would be really cool. I mean, we had just under 70 people now, but very international crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah. Italian, Irish, England, Belgium, German, and of course the Netherlands. But
I'll have to make sure to attend next year. I've never been to Amsterdam or the Netherlands. It'd be a good excuse.
Well, it was a really good excuse, and I don't know where you're based, but since last month, I think there's a new route between Rotterdam Airport and London Stansted.
I am up in Manchester, and I'm pretty sure that there's quite a few flights over that way from Manchester. Probably Rotterdam and Amsterdam.
Yeah, well, Amsterdam is a real amusement park. If you want to see that, go to Amsterdam. If you want to see a real city, go to Rotterdam. That's actually the advice
I'll keep that in mind. Rotterdam will be my first point of call.
Especially if you like new architecture. Because in World War II, most of Rotterdam got bombed.
Yes.
So there's not that much of old architecture. There's a few buildings still left. But, around the river Maas, they built a lot of cool new architecture. Actually, I sent Tonie over there 2 weeks ago because he came over for volunteering for a SQL event. And he had 2 days to kill in Rotterdam. And he really liked it. He just kept on sending me pictures. I really had to mute that conversation. Mute! Stop it!
I have to. I said I'll be asking you what your favorite food is later. And so if I ever go to Rotterdam, which I'm sure I will do, I'll be messaging you some good places to eat.
Well, Tonie didn't even ask me, but he went to the best burger joint in town. So without asking, so that's good.
Just found it. Just found his way there. So iconic. All right. I suppose jumping into it then. Obviously, with your expertise in database DevOps, what are some of the biggest challenges that you experience in the field?
People.
That's a good answer. Good answer.
No, well, of course, if you look up any quote about DevOps in general, you mostly find the one and the most famous one. DevOps is the union of people, processes, and products to enable continuous delivery of value to our end users. Signed, Donovan Brown, Microsoft. I met Donovan in 2018, and then I was the team lead, or operations manager, or whatever you want to call it. I had a team, and they had to listen to me, something like that. Or I had a team, and we had to do it together. That's more like it. But people, processes, tools, or people, processes, products, that order is very important. So to simply just put development and operations together,
it's not enough.
You're talking about people. You talk about people working their beep off, doing their job, or can I just say working their ass off? Is that allowed here in the podcast? I don't know.
It's absolutely allowed. Don't worry.
Okay.
We're not PC here.
They all have their own process, doing stuff. For example, testing software, developing software, doing a deployment, etc., etc. So to do a proper DevOps implementation, you really need to know what are your people doing. What are their best opportunities within the company? What are their best tasks they're doing? What tasks are they doing that aren't really that good? What process are they following to do it? And is the process you are following the same process I'm following? So understand your people, align the processes, see if those processes can be improved, and then try to automate those processes. So by automating processes, then you come at the product/tools part.
Understanding responsibilities, in my experience, is a big part of it. You have to make sure that they all work together in the way that they should.
Yeah, and that they understand why you are doing this and why I should be doing that, so that if we both do our job, it will just seamlessly.
Check.
Yeah.
Or sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, and unicorns and stuff like that. And yeah. So I think that people are the most beautiful thing within a company or in life, but also the most complicated part in life. Combining the most beautiful and the most complicated and getting it together, well, that's a challenge. Yeah, but it's a nice challenge.
Yeah, it is a nice challenge. It is. I've found that DevOps in general, DevOps especially with like software programs and websites, however you want to phrase it, it's a lot simpler than DevOps in data. DevOps in data, well, data has quite a large underlying aspect to it of the actual data that's stored within the structures that you are, say, source controlling. I know that we've previously had a brief conversation on the difference of the migration approach and the source control approach.
The state-based, yeah.
And I'm sure we will have more conversations about that in more detail in the future. But I found that there can be quite a lot of misconceptions that people have with DevOps in the world of data in general, because their experience with DevOps is very much on the software side. Don't know if you've got any experience with trying to help people understand the differences of DevOps in data versus DevOps in software.
Well, absolutely. Well, to start with another separation, there's like data ops and DevOps.
Yeah.
Which is,
there is, yeah.
And with data ops, you're more on the, let's say it's a BI side with extracting data from different sources, getting a quality of those data and automating it all. And of course, the DevOps, which we are going to talk about more on this podcast. The hardest thing to get data people working with data structure is that they are actually the same, of course, because they're all people, but they're doing the same thing as the software people because they're using code, T-SQL,
yes,
and they're putting that in production. But with software, it's pretty clear because first you have like your binaries, your source code, and then you compile it to a binary, right? But with T-SQL, it's in the database's development, but in production, it's exactly the same. So there's no real compiling step.
Yes.
Or is there? I mean, it's only a concept.
That's how you do it. I mean, we've I've used kind of the SQL database project approach in the past. I've done a couple of shorts on it, to be fair. SQL Server data tools and all of that. A lot of the build processes that you can do within that. I mean, I think the engine is all built in .NET. So I'd imagine in the background it's doing a lot of code compiling to be able to check that all of the code that you've written is valid before anything happens.
It's true. And with SQL projects, it's also that whenever you're done, you get a deck pack or another binary or actually immutable artifact, because this immutable artifact that comes out of your pipeline from dev, so it can go to a test, etc., is very important. But if you're using something else than SQL project, for example, Flyway or SQL source control, there's no real deck pack. It's SQL code and SQL code. And why should I see that SQL code that comes out of my pipeline as static, as immutable? That's something that needs to go into your head. And of course, if you automate that step, so you will push your code into whatever pipeline, and some automation will just output a SQL file which you can't alter. It's more an immutable artifact in your head.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
But also in your process. But the biggest problem is to understand for data scripting people that this code is code and that the code needs to go into source control. And there's now a little commercial block. So here we go. So that's why, and I stole this sign because it was my first pre-con, but get your database under control, because it's important to understand that your code needs to go into some kind of source control. And of course, I'm very much a fan of Git. That's why the name is Get Your Database Under Control. But understanding that everything you do in the database can be extracted and needs to go into source control, and every change you do is just an incremental change that you need to commit. If you understand those basic principles, well, that's step one.
Yeah. And it's always just getting started. I think that's the key thing for me, with getting your database
getting your database
under control.
Yeah. But that's one. But if your tool, SQL Server Management Studio, allows you to just ignore this whole version control part and just connect to the production database and get your code into production, why should you ever bother to care that you had sources and you had to compile it to something immutable or a binary? So it's the whole process that you need to understand.
It's a mindset.
And need to accept.
No, that was really good. That was quite insightful. Right now for the most important part of the podcast. I want to bring in a bit of a fun section. You put me onto the Finding Data Friends podcast, and I'll be going on there in a couple of weeks.
Really? They're pretty cool.
I got in touch with them, and I'll be on there. So I'm not sure again when that's going to be out and available to the community, but I'll link them together. One of the questions they ask in there is what your favorite food is.
So you're just nicking their questions.
I'm nicking it, but
okay, no problem.
I'm nicking it, but I'm rolling it on. I'm rolling on to something else. So there is a flow.
Okay.
I think it's such a good question because I feel like what somebody's favorite food is says a lot about a person. As it says about your tastes, obviously where you're from, type of cuisine that you like, the areas you like to go to. So I wanna know more about what your favorite food is.
Well, it's a really good question, and I can give a political answer. Just like if someone asks what's your favorite whiskey, then I always say, well, it depends on the weather, on my feeling, etc., etc. So my favorite food, and especially to cook, is lasagna.
Ooh.
And then everything from, well, not the dough, I will buy in the dough, but everything else I will just make from fresh ingredients.
So my nan used to make an absolutely lovely lasagna when I was younger.
Yeah, I think that baking lasagna will first you have to take a lot of time for it, because you will boil your bolognese sauce, you will pre-boil your dough, you will make nice layers, you will make a bechamel sauce. Is that good English? Bechamel sauce?
Yeah, bechamel, yeah. It's
bechamel sauce.
A very involved process.
Yeah, you will slice mozzarella in between. You will try to get it not too dry, but also not too wet.
Yeah.
So if you will slice it, it will just stand up like this big, nice tower.
I don't think I've ever managed to do it that well. I've made a few lasagnas myself, but they've definitely been quite sloppy.
Yeah, well, good ingredients is number one, and practice is number two, of course. So baking lasagna, I really like it, but thinking of it, it's a while back, because you have to take time for it. So the next best thing of baking is just making your own pizzas.
Yes.
It's again Italian.
Yeah. So you're a big fan of Italian food.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Italian food, but I have two kids, and my oldest, my daughter, cooks a lot, and she's more Asian style. So
modern.
Sorry?
You said it's more modern.
Yeah.
The Asian food is very in fashion right now.
Yeah, it's in fashion, and so I will taste a lot of what she makes. Mm-hmm. She will just cook for the whole family, so that's good. But I think that Italian food is for me maybe comfort food. It's because
hearty.
The lasagna you can also make in a shorter time if you just will buy some boiled sauce, or you can cut some corners and still get some result. Of course, the best result you get by taking this extra time. And another nice food to prepare is, of course, nasi. You know nasi?
Gnocchi.
No, gnocchi. Yeah, that's also nice. No, I mean just fried rice. Sorry. So fried rice.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So it is, of course, Asian, but there's like this Dutch variant of it. And the cool thing is that if you just wait half a day before frying the rice that you cooked, you get more flavor out of it.
Yeah, it's much better.
And that's the same with Italian food. If you have like this bolognese sauce, which just get left over for the lasagna, you will keep it in the fridge, and the next day it's more, the flavors are in there.
Yeah, it enhances. I mean, they do say it's the same thing as I really like. This isn't my answer to my favorite food, because I'm going to keep that very close to my chest for the Finding Data Friends.
I understand, totally understand that.
So it's a very similar thing to like buttermilk fried chicken. You've got to marinate the chicken overnight in buttermilk, and it kind of becomes better in the fridge, left for a certain amount of time.
Well, tonight I'm actually gonna cook for the first time orange chicken.
Orange chicken.
When I went over to the States, orange chicken is like the most. I don't know if the most bought food is at Asian places, but it's everywhere. Especially it's the fast food joint Panda Express. Orange chicken was the favorite of my daughters. So I got some ingredients and I'm going to make it tonight. And tonight she's going out for dinner with her friend. So I don't know. I'm boiling it for myself. Well,
hopefully you put it in the fridge overnight and it tastes even better tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, so favorite food is very, it depends question. And I mean, if it's very sunny outside, it's nice to make a little barbecue. There are a lot of favorite foods. Yeah. But I think if you wake me up at night, and I would probably say lasagna.
Half asleep Tony would go, lasagna.
But if you ask my kids or my wife, they would say Tony will eat basically everything.
Yes.
Anything.
Anything and everything.
So there you have it.
That's good. I'm going to Portugal next week.
Nice.
And I've never been. I was wondering if you have any suggestions for any Portuguese food. If you've ever been to Portugal before, because I'm not a big person.
What I do know is that the Portuguese wine, the port, is actually one of the best casks whiskey can finish in. So
I'll have to give the whiskey a try while I'm out there.
Yeah. So and then of course there's sherry. It's also from Portugal, right? Also very famous for finishing whiskey in. But I don't know anything about the Portuguese food, so I think you have to ask from DBA Tools, Mr. Da Silva.
Well,
he's from Portugal.
Hopefully, I can get him on the podcast sometime soon as well. And,
that would be cool, yeah.
And ask him then do a big rewind to episode 3, which this is.
This is episode 3.
This is episode 3. Yeah,
3 is my lucky number. It's actually 33, but I do it for 3.
Well, I'll get you back for episode 33.
Yeah, that's good. So Claudio Silva, you have to ask him.
Hey everyone, just a quick interlude from me. I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. If you are, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. It greatly helps me reach a wider audience, and you get notified of episodes as soon as they are released. Also, if you're a data and AI professional with insights to share, please get in touch. I'd love to have you on the show. I hope you're at the SQL Squared website for more, and if you have any questions for me, I would be happy to answer. I hope you comment or email me on mailbag@sqlsquared.co.uk. Back to the show.
So, writing and speaking. So you do a lot of writing and speaking, as far as I understand. We've already talked about your blog posts, and you mentioned your talk that you did last year. I was something that I'm quite interested in doing in the future, and I know it's, even if people in the industry go to meetups or talks or conferences, I think in the audience you always sit there and think about, how did that person get to stand up on that stage and talk about what they're talking about? What did they do to get there? How did you get into speaking in the first place?
So again, it's the fault of the other Tonie, I think, because well, I'm a natural speaker, if you can say it like that way, but I used to have my own radio show.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's a while back. Let me look at the date. It's almost 15 years back, I guess. Long time ago. So if you're used to your own voice, it's no problem. But I like the engagement with other people. Mm-hmm. So if it's one-on-one like this on a podcast, or with on stage with 100 people or 1,000 people, I like the vibe, the energy you get from speaking to someone else. And if you have something to share, if you have something to learn to the audience, but also to learn from the audience, it's even better. That's a good reason to get on stage. I mentioned whiskey before. I do whiskey tastings together with my whiskey mate, which is actually, well, something like speaking on stage.
Yeah.
But how I got there is because I wrote my first article. Then I submitted for the first time to an event. It was in the middle of COVID, so everything was virtual. Mm-hmm. So I had to pre-record it. It wasn't even virtual as in online. I had to, I didn't. The only thing that was live was the Q&A. Okay. And so I just recorded it. And recorded it, and re-recorded it, and re-recorded it. To improvise is better for me. If I record it, I can do it over again, and improvisation is actually something that suits me better.
No, I agree. I'm very much in the same format. I mean, with this podcast, basically just writing down a few notes and having a good chat. The natural flow of a conversation is much better down to like robotic scripts.
Well, for other people, I mean, the other Tonie, which got me into writing, and that article eventually got me into my first talk. He tend to have more like a script, but eventually, over time, within the Tonie show, there's a flow when you didn't need a script again, just natural flow. And I think that's very important if you want to get on stage and if you want that attention, if you want to share your story, stay as much as you can with your own style, your own flow. Because if you script stuff, you will get that more, like you say, robotic script, which isn't your real natural flow.
Yeah.
And of course, there can be a stage Tonie and an off-stage Tonie if that suits you better. Mm-hmm. But in my case, there's only one Tonie. So the one you find on the podcast, you will find on the street, you will find on the stage, and sometimes people get tired of me. So because there's just this one Tonie, you just can't stop talking.
No, I think it's important to have your own personality. I say it's a big thing of becoming even like a content creator, or you want to get views on YouTube, or that's one of the things I follow with this podcast. It's got to be unique. I've got to be me as the host, and I encourage everyone, all the guests, to be themselves as well. Yeah. To try and create that that natural tone. And a word that I've used is organic, or an organic podcast.
Well, I think that's the same with getting likes and views. If they're organic, it's better than just doing a lot of promotion and buying in likes, etc., etc. Yeah. Organic growth is the best, and I think that's the same with getting your content written or created. Stay close to yourself and be authentic. But if you're just that authentic, organic girl or guy, or and you want to get on the stage, how to get on that stage? Well, new starts of data. You already mentioned, of course, Finding Data Friends, which is hosted by one of the hosts, Ben Wiseman. The other is, of course, Jess Pomfret. But Ben has his, together with William Durkin, has his own special conference online for those new stars, which is called New Stars of Data. So that's one. What you can also do is just go to that user group and ask if you can get a speaker slot.
Yeah.
Go to Sessionize. That's the main platform where most of the conferences are hosted on. And if
Sessionize. I don't think I've actually ever heard of
Sessionize.
Sessionize.
Sessionize.com. And if you want specific call for speakers, you got blinded by the website?
I brought up Google in front of my face, and it outright blinded me, so I just moved it to my other screen.
Okay. So if you want to speak on data conferences, there's a special website, callfordataspeakers.com.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a call for speakers.
Yeah.
And those call for speakers are mainly processed by Sessionize, because if you're hosting a community event like we did 2 weeks back, it's completely free to use. If you're charging money for your event, Sessionize is going to charge you money, which of course there are people working, they need to get paid as well. So hey, that's very logical. So that's something how to get started. The other thing is, of course, like you do, just get yourself into your studio, and your studio can just be just your spare room, your kitchen, exactly, or I don't know where you're sitting, but it can be any room these days, and with a blue or black screen. Well, this is real, by the way, but with a screen behind you.
It's not a big green screen. It's just
no. Everything can be a studio, so you can start from there. So it is actually pretty easy to start, but how to get started, what content to put on, it totally depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a worry of mine starting out, but I found that if I just true to myself, if I write and talk about the things that I want to write and talk about, it just becomes a lot easier. And so that would be my one bit of advice from this podcast to the people listening. And
the last advice I can give you is this link you will provide. For a Simple Talk article, which is written by Lewis Davidson, the editor of Simple Talk. And it's like a promo for a talk I do with the other Tonie, calling Amplifying Your Experience, which will cover everything I just said about getting started. And also it covers things like the blockers, why you should start, why you shouldn't start, and what's holding you back.
I'll link that below, and I'll probably. It sounds like a good idea to do a bit of a promotional thing on LinkedIn for. One of the very last questions. I always find that I learn well from mistakes. So I wanted to know if there's any common mistakes that you've made in your speaking and or writing career that you have since learned from, that it would be good to tell everyone else about, so they don't make the same mistakes you did.
Well,
it's okay if you haven't made any mistakes.
I made a lot of mistakes, of course. That's being alive. That's making mistakes and trying to do it again and again. It's how you process those mistakes. It's how you try to live with your mistakes. But and it's not really a surprise for the most of the people that know me. But I tend to go over time.
Okay.
So I always try to do too much content in too little time. So by practicing, even I don't like scripting, by practicing your presentation and by ordering, for example, first every content, theoretical part of the content and then the demonstrations, by ordering that, you will get a better flow within the time you got. So another thing to help with timekeeping, most of the conferences have room monitors. Those are in the room, they will signal you with like 30 minutes, 20 minutes. Yeah. Make use of them. The first time I thought, what's he doing? Why is he sitting with the sign? But it's very handy. And of course, you can just put it on your phone. You can have it on your speaker notes. I have it on my speaker notes. You should be at 30 minutes now, Tonie. If you're over, no demos. So I will just punish myself by not demoing stuff because I really like demoing stuff.
Yeah, it comes very naturally to some people and not so naturally to others. It's definitely something. I mean, even if you're not a speaker, even in the workplace, if you're doing presentations, you always need to keep to timelines to meetings and make sure that you get all the information across that you need to within that time frame. Because if you find that you're only 50% of the way through by the time the time's up, then you might not have presented what you originally wanted to present.
Well, that's it. And I already mentioned it, but I don't like the scripting part of your presentation, but there's a bare minimum what you like to transfer, what you like to learn to your audience. So keep that in mind. So, for example, chop your presentation into 4 parts of 15 minutes if you have 1 hour.
Just to have some sort of structure.
Yeah, and always make room for questions. But that also depends. A lot of people like in-between questions. Other people like to park those questions in the end. And if you're part of group number 2, just say that at the start of your presentation. There will be room for questions, but it will be in the end. Or there will be room every 15 minutes when I finish my chapter. Because I think that's one of the main reasons why I go over time. I will process every question I get. And I won't change that. But what I do need to do is then stop within those 15 minutes if I chop it up in four parts. So
I definitely, whenever I'm doing presentations and things, if it's internal to my work environment, I'll always set an agenda at the start and do a very similar thing to what you've just mentioned. And say, hey, can we leave questions to the end? Or I'll have certain question slides to kind of break it up a little bit.
Yeah, well, the other thing is from the practicing part is you can do it to an audience, like someone in the room, or invite someone online. You can also do it to PowerPoint. There's like this rehearsal option. Mm-hmm. It's somewhere hidden in the last steps, and it will try to coach you. So that's important. I got a lot of help for my first presentation, again, from people within Redgate to get my story straight, to practice it, to have a real narrative about what I'm trying to put across to the people. So ask for help.
Yeah.
Even if you think you can do it yourself, ask for help.
Yeah. There'll always be someone willing to open up and help you out with their experience. I find it so much harder to talk to a camera than I do to talk to people.
Yeah, it's gone now. But
you got a little mascot.
No, well, that's something that could work. But let me just. So it's gone now. But
yeah.
I used to have 2 bubbling eyes, just on my camera lens.
I've got this thing.
Yeah. So that could help. The other thing that is a little bit of an investment, but I'm now talking to it. It's a teleprompter.
Oh, yeah, I haven't got one of them.
It's from Elgato, and there's like this little screen here, mm-hmm. which is mirrored here, and behind that mirror, there's the camera. So I'm always now looking into the camera. But I'm actually just looking to my screen.
Yeah, because I'm staring down. Like I have to look up to look at you. directly. That I'm gonna buy one of them.
I'm gonna make a picture of it. You can put it in.
Please. Well, yeah. Thanks for that. I mean, we're coming up on time. I think we've run over ourselves a little bit. We've been recording.
Yeah, well, that's my signature. So
Yeah.
that's what you get when you invite me. So man,
it's been a really, really insightful chat, and I've definitely learned a lot from you about database DevOps, about speaking, a few tips, how much you like lasagna. That's my favorite part.
Especially like to make lasagna.
Yeah, I make lasagna. Yeah, you like to make lasagna. And making it from scratch is so much better than buying all the shop bought ingredients. Very, very last thing from everything we've spoken about today. If you were to give everyone one key takeaway, what would it be?
If you look at everything I've talked at, it's again people. Be careful with people. Treat them nicely. Then you get treated nicely back. Try to understand what the people are doing you're working with. Try to understand their processes. And then put those tools online. But that's of course a DevOps thinking. But people. I love people.
We all love people. Everyone loves people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that a good takeaway?
That is a very good takeaway. I think it's an important takeaway as well. You know, you've got to work with people.
I also like technology, of course. That's why I'm here. So that's exactly the combination. Yeah. I like people and technology, and the translation between it.
Yeah, but the technology wouldn't be here without the people.
Exactly.
Well, it's very good. I've definitely taken a lot from this, and I'm sure all the listeners will as well. And I would love to have you back some point soon. Like I said, maybe episode 33. Lucky enough.
Yeah. That's put me on.
Hopefully we get there.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me, David.
No, you're very, very welcome. And thanks for coming on the show. And thanks to everyone else for tuning in. If you've enjoyed the conversation that we've had, please subscribe, leave a comment. I'd be more than happy to discuss what we've talked about here in the comments below. And also visit the SQL Squared website. That's SQL_Squared. And the URL is sqlsquared.co.uk. There'll be a blog post for this show as well. And I'll be more than happy to discuss everything that we've talked about. Yeah, and we'll be back next time with another fascinating guest in the world of tech. Cool. And I'll make sure to send out a link both to the audience and to you, Tonie, for me on the Finding Data Friends podcast. We'll see how that goes. So until then, take care, everyone. Cheers, Tonie.
Take care.